If it weren't for that wonderful smile, she would still have a job and no one to love. If it weren't for that wonderful smile, she would still have a job. That was what they whispered after she was fired. Low voices in the break room, eyes darting away when she passed. As if her smile were a flaw. As if kindness were a weakness. As if warmth had no place in a world that preferred silence, obedience, and lowered eyes. Her name was Elena Morales, and for 6 years she had worked the front desk at Harrington and Blythe Financial, one of the most powerful firms in the city. She wasn't an executive. She wasn't invited to strategy meetings or private lunches. She was just reception. But Elena was the first face clients saw when they walked in frightened, confused, or angry. And she greeted every single one of them with that same smile. Steady, sincere, human. Some people loved it. Others hated it. Especially Marjorie Blythe. Marjorie was the kind of woman who believed professionalism meant emotional distance. She wore neutral colors, spoke in clipped sentences, and measured worth by titles and bank balances. In her world, warmth was inefficiency. Empathy was weakness. Smiling, especially smiling too much, was inappropriate. "Elena," Marjorie said one morning, standing stiffly at the reception desk, "you're not hosting a dinner party. This is a financial institution." Elena straightened. "Of course, Ms. Blythe. And please," Marjorie added, lowering her voice, "try to look more serious." Elena nodded. She always did. What Marjorie didn't know, what she had never bothered to learn, was that Elena's smile had nothing to do with naivete or flirting or carelessness. It was armor. Elena had learned to smile young. She learned it after her father died suddenly, leaving her mother with 3 children and hospital bills that never stopped coming. She learned it while working 2 jobs through college while being underestimated, overlooked, and spoken over. She learned it because people treated her better when she looked unbothered, when she looked pleasant. But behind that smile was discipline, intelligence, a sharp, analytical mind that absorbed everything around her, including things no one realized she was paying attention to. Every morning Elena arrived early. Not because she was told to, but because she liked knowing how the office breathed before it filled with noise. She noticed patterns. Names. Numbers. Who panicked before meetings. Who lied smoothly. Who avoided eye contact when the quarterly reports came in late. She listened. And she remembered. On the morning everything changed, Elena was doing what she always did, helping an elderly client who looked overwhelmed by paperwork. "Take your time," Elena said gently. "We'll go through it together." The man exhaled in relief. "Thank you. No one ever explains things anymore." Marjorie saw this from across the lobby. She didn't see compassion. She saw inefficiency. "Ms. Morales," Marjorie snapped, "my office. Now." The glass door closed behind them. "This firm is about precision," Marjorie said coldly. "Not hand-holding." "I was just clarifying a document," Elena replied calmly. "You were wasting billable time." Elena swallowed. "I understand." Marjorie leaned back. "I've had concerns for a while. Your demeanor. The smiling. The way clients linger." "They linger because they're confused," Elena said softly. "That is not your problem." The silence that followed felt heavier than any shout. "I'm letting you go," Marjorie said. Effective immediately. Elena felt the words before she understood them. "For what reason?" she asked. "Not a good cultural fit." 6 years. Reduced to 1 sentence. Elena packed her desk quietly while co-workers avoided her eyes. Someone whispered, "She was too nice anyway." Another muttered, "Should have known her place." She walked out with her head high, smile gone, not broken, just resting. Outside the city kept moving. Cars honked. People hurried. No one noticed one more woman standing still. Except one man. He had been waiting in the lobby the entire time. Daniel Harrington, co-founder of the firm, majority shareholder, and the man whose name was literally on the building. He had arrived early for an unannounced audit. And he had seen everything. The way Elena spoke to the client. The way Marjorie dismissed her. The way Elena walked out without tears, without drama, only dignity. Daniel didn't say a word. Not yet. But something shifted behind his eyes. And for the first time in a very long time, he wondered how many things in his own company he had never truly seen. They thought losing her job would break her. It only revealed what they never saw. Elena didn't cry when she got home. That surprised even her. She unlocked the small apartment she shared with her mother, set her bag down carefully, and stood in the quiet kitchen listening to the hum of the refrigerator. No dramatic collapse. No tears sliding down her cheeks. Just silence. Her mother looked up from the stove. One glance at Elena's face was enough. "They let you go," her mother said softly. Elena nodded. "For smiling," she added, trying to make it sound absurd instead of painful. Her mother didn't laugh. She wiped her hands on a towel and pulled Elena into a tight embrace. "Then they never deserved you." That night, Elena lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the past 6 years. Every late arrival to help a client. Every extra task she took on without being asked. Every time she fixed mistakes that weren't hers and let others take credit. She realized something then, something uncomfortable. She had been invisible by design. They hadn't fired her because she was bad at her job. They fired her because they never understood what her job really was. The next morning, Elena updated her resume. She hesitated over the job title. Receptionist. The word suddenly felt too small. She changed it. Client operations and administrative coordination. It was accurate. More accurate than anyone at Harrington and Blythe had ever been willing to admit. Across town, Daniel Harrington sat alone in his office, reviewing internal reports that had quietly troubled him for months. Client retention numbers fluctuated oddly. Some accounts remained loyal despite poor performance. Others vanished after one bad interaction. A pattern was emerging. And Elena Morales was at the center of it. Clients who interacted with her stayed longer, complained less, invested more. Daniel leaned back in his chair. "How did we miss this?" he muttered. He called his executive assistant. "Pull Marjorie Blythe's recent decisions, especially terminations." "Is something wrong, sir?" she asked. "Something's been wrong for a while," Daniel replied. Meanwhile, Elena was already being reminded of how the world treated women without titles. She applied to 10 jobs. 7 rejections came within 48 hours. 2 never responded. 1 offered her a position with lower pay and flexible respect. She declined. Money was tight. Her mother reassured her. "We'll manage." But Elena hated that phrase. She had spent her whole life managing. Then came the call she didn't expect. "Ms. Morales?" a crisp voice asked. "This is Crestline Consulting. We received your application." Elena straightened. Crestline was a competitor. Smaller, newer, but aggressive. "We'd like you to come in for an interview. Tomorrow morning." The interview room was modern but tense. 3 people sat across from her, eyes scanning her resume. "You were a receptionist," one of them said flatly. Elena met his gaze. "I was the first and last line of client interaction for a financial firm managing millions in assets." Pause. "Tell us something you did there that wasn't in your job description," another interviewer said. Elena didn't hesitate. "I prevented a high-net-worth client from pulling out during a panic by explaining risk exposure in plain language when his advisor was unavailable." The room shifted. "That's not typical," the woman said carefully. Elena smiled, not the polite one she used to wear at work. A confident one. "I'm not typical." At Harrington and Blythe, tension quietly brewed. 2 major clients complained within the same week. One said, "The front desk feels cold now." Another added, "Your firm used to feel human." Marjorie dismissed it. Clients complain about everything. But Daniel didn't. He remembered Elena's voice. Her calm. Her patience. And he wondered how much damage arrogance had already done. 3 days later, Crestline called back. "We'd like to offer you a position," they said. Client Strategy Associate. It came with better pay than her old job. Elena accepted. On her first day, she walked into Crestline with the same wonderful smile. But this time, it wasn't mistaken for weakness. It was recognized as strength. Back at Harrington and Blythe, Daniel finally confronted Marjorie. "You fired Elena Morales," he said evenly. "Yes," Marjorie replied. "She wasn't aligned with our culture." Daniel placed printed reports on the table. She was the culture. Marjorie's confidence faltered. "Do you know how many clients we're losing?" he continued. "Do you know why?" Silence. "You judged someone by her position," Daniel said. "And you cost this company trust." Marjorie stiffened. "Are you questioning my leadership?" Daniel stood. "I'm correcting it." The day they realized the receptionist was the one holding everything together. Elena didn't intend to outshine anyone at Crestline. She just worked. She listened the way she always had, carefully, completely. She noticed which clients asked the same questions twice. Which executives avoided difficult conversations. Which numbers didn't quite add up but no one wanted to flag. Within 2 weeks, people started stopping by her desk. Not to give instructions. To ask for advice. Can you explain why this client is uneasy? How would you phrase this email? Do you think we're missing something here? At first, Elena answered quietly, then confidently, then strategically. Her manager, Thomas Reed, began inviting her into meetings she technically didn't need to attend. But after the third time her insights prevented a client escalation, no one questioned it. She sees things others don't, Thomas told the leadership team. And she sees people. Across the city, Harrington and Blythe was unraveling faster than Marjorie Blythe expected. Clients complained about long waits. Miscommunications multiplied. Advisors blamed each other. The front desk, once calm, steady, reassuring, now felt tense and transactional. Daniel Harrington sat in a boardroom listening to yet another frustrated executive. "We lost the Keller account," the man said. "They moved everything to Crestline." Daniel froze. "Crestline?" "Yes," another executive added. Apparently they felt understood there. Daniel knew immediately. He didn't smile. "Who's handling client onboarding at Crestline now?" he asked. A junior analyst checked her tablet. According to LinkedIn, Elena Morales. The room went quiet. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. At Crestline, Elena was in the middle of her first major presentation. She stood at the head of the table, not nervous, not flashy, just prepared. "This isn't about numbers alone," she said, pointing to the screen. "It's about trust. And trust is built in moments most firms ignore." She clicked to the next slide, feedback excerpts from clients who had followed her over. "She made us feel safe. She explained things without judgment. She treated us like people, not accounts." Silence followed. Then Thomas nodded slowly. "We've been chasing growth metrics," he said. "She's showing us loyalty metrics." The promotion came the next morning. Director of Client Strategy. Elena stared at the email, stunned. She called her mother first. "They see me," she whispered. Her mother cried. The real reckoning, however, came a week later. Harrington and Blythe hosted a high-profile industry conference, one they had dominated for years. This time, Crestline was invited as a featured competitor. Elena hesitated when Thomas asked her to attend. "I don't want to cause tension." Thomas smiled knowingly. "You won't. Your excellence will." The ballroom buzzed with familiar faces. Old co-workers froze when they saw her, standing tall, confident, wearing a badge with a title no one had ever associated with her name. Marjorie Blythe spotted her from across the room. Her expression hardened. "Elena Morales," Marjorie said coldly, approaching her. "I didn't expect to see you here." Elena met her gaze calmly. "I didn't expect to be invited either. Life surprises us." Marjorie scoffed. "Enjoy the illusion while it lasts." Before Elena could respond, Daniel Harrington joined them. "Elena," he said warmly, "I was hoping I'd see you." Marjorie stiffened. "Daniel?" "I owe you an apology," Daniel said, ignoring her. "And thanks." "For what?" Elena asked, genuinely curious. "For showing me what we were losing while I wasn't paying attention." Marjorie's face flushed. "Daniel, surely you're not implying?" "I am," Daniel said firmly. "Your decision cost us millions." The surrounding executives went silent. Elena felt the moment settle, not with triumph but with clarity. "I never wanted revenge," she said softly. "I just wanted respect." Daniel nodded. "And you earned it long before we noticed." Marjorie said nothing. She couldn't. Because for the first time, everyone was watching. Karma arrived quietly. Then all at once. The conference changed everything. Not because Elena spoke on stage, but because she didn't need to. People came to her. Executives who once walked past her desk without learning her name now lined up to shake her hand. Some recognized her immediately. Others only realized who she was after reading her badge, then did a double take. "You worked at Harrington and Blythe?" one man asked, stunned. Elena smiled politely. "I did." "And they let you go?" "They did," she replied simply. That single sentence traveled faster than any keynote speech. By the end of the evening, Crestline's booth was surrounded. New inquiries. New partnerships. New respect. Across the room, Marjorie Blythe stood rigid, gripping a glass of wine she hadn't touched. Every laugh sounded louder. Every compliment Elena received felt sharper. Daniel Harrington watched it all unfold with a heavy expression. He had built his firm on numbers and ambition, but tonight he saw the cost of ignoring people. The following Monday, Harrington and Blythe's board convened an emergency meeting. Client losses had accelerated. Several long-term accounts formally cited loss of personal connection, as their reason for leaving. Others followed Elena to Crestline outright. Daniel didn't defend Marjorie. He didn't raise his voice either. Leadership, he said calmly, is not about control. It's about awareness. Marjorie folded her arms. You're blaming me for cultural softness. I'm holding you accountable for cultural blindness. The decision was unanimous. Marjorie Blythe was removed from her executive role. The woman who once believed power made her untouchable left the building without applause, without ceremony, just silence. Meanwhile, Elena was struggling with something she hadn't expected. Loneliness. Success came quickly. Praise came often. But at night, when the city quieted, she sometimes missed being unseen. There was safety in invisibility. One evening, after another long day, she stayed late organizing client notes. A knock sounded on her office door. Still working? A familiar voice asked. She looked up. Daniel Harrington stood there, no suit jacket, no authority in his posture. Just a man. I wanted to thank you properly, he said. Without an audience. Elena gestured for him to sit. I didn't do what I did for revenge, she told him. I just refused to shrink anymore. Daniel nodded. And you taught me something I didn't know I'd forgotten. Silence settled between them, comfortable, reflective. You know, he added quietly, I spent years believing leadership meant distance. Watching you reminded me it's actually the opposite. Elena met his eyes. There was no imbalance here. No hierarchy. Just mutual respect. I hope you're happy, he said. She thought for a moment. I'm learning to be. Outside, the city lights flickered like possibilities waiting to be chosen. She lost a job, and found a life that finally fit. Success didn't arrive loudly for Elena. It arrived steadily. Weeks turned into months and Crestline grew, not just in revenue but in reputation. Clients described the firm as human. Employees described it as different. And more often than not, when asked why, people gave the same answer. Elena listens. She didn't raise her voice in meetings. She didn't dominate rooms. She asked the questions no one else thought to ask, and waited for the answers others rushed past. One afternoon, as she walked through the office, a junior assistant stopped her. I just wanted to say thank you, the woman said nervously. You make it feel like we matter. Elena smiled. Not the armor this time. The real one. That evening, Daniel Harrington invited her to dinner, not as an executive reaching across firms, not as a man trying to reclaim relevance, but as someone who had learned humility the hard way. No business talk, he said as they sat across from each other. Just honesty. They spoke about childhood. About mistakes. About the pressure to perform and the fear of being ordinary. I spent years surrounded by people, Daniel admitted, and somehow felt alone. Elena nodded. I spent years alone in rooms full of people. The truth settled gently between them. Their connection didn't rush. It didn't burn fast and disappear. It grew slowly, grounded in respect and shared understanding. No power imbalance. No rescues. Just two people choosing each other, freely. Months later, Elena received a message she never expected. It was from Marjorie Blythe. Short. Unpolished. I misjudged you. I thought authority came from control. You proved it comes from care. I'm sorry. Elena stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she typed back. I forgive you. I hope you find peace. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt free. 1 year after being fired, Elena stood on a small stage at an industry summit, invited to speak about ethical leadership and client trust. She opened her talk with a smile and a single sentence. They once told me my kindness didn't belong in business. The room was silent. They were wrong. Applause rose, not thunderous but sincere. Later that night, as Elena stood on her apartment balcony with Daniel beside her, the city lights glowing below, she realized something quietly profound. Losing that job hadn't taken anything from her. It had returned her to herself.